The cargo ship docked at Viridian 7 with a hiss of releasing pressure seals. Deho stepped out onto the platform and stretched his tired muscles. He had been flying for 16 hours straight, and his body felt every minute of it. The station was exactly as he remembered it, dirty, crowded, and smelling like recycled air mixed with alien spices. He walked through the main corridor toward the fueling depot. His ship needed energy cells, and he needed food. Maybe some coffee if the station vendors had anything that tasted halfway decent. Around him, dozens of alien species moved about their business. Tall Krellians with their forearms carried cargo containers. Small Vexor creatures scurried between legs, their scales clicking on the metal floor. Everyone had somewhere to go, something to do. Deho handed his credit chip to the fueling attendant, a bored-looking Talaxian who barely glanced at him. The transaction took 3 minutes. After that, Deho had 4 hours to kill while his ship recharged. He decided to walk through the market district, maybe find something interesting. The market was loud and chaotic. Vendors shouted in a dozen different languages. Some sold food, others sold equipment, and some sold things Deho did not want to think about too carefully. He kept his hands in his pockets and his eyes forward. This was not the kind of place where you wanted to look too interested in anything. That was when he heard it. It was not a sound exactly, more like a feeling inside his head, a desperate, pleading sensation that made his chest tighten. Deho stopped walking. He looked around, confused. None of the aliens around him seemed to notice anything strange. They continued shopping, arguing, and moving through the crowd as if nothing was happening. The feeling came again, stronger this time. It felt like someone crying out for help, but the words were not in any language he knew. They were pure emotion, fear, loneliness, and a desperate hope that someone, anyone, might hear. Deho changed direction. He followed the feeling like a compass pointing north. It led him away from the main market and into the darker sections of the station. The corridors became narrower. The lights were dimmer. Fewer people walked here, and the ones who did had the look of criminals and smugglers. He should turn back. This was stupid. He was a cargo hauler, not a hero. He had his own problems to worry about. But his feet kept moving forward anyway, following that silent cry for help. The feeling led him to a storage bay at the end of a forgotten corridor. The door was partially open. Deho could hear voices inside, harsh, guttural sounds in a language he did not recognize. He peered through the gap in the door. Inside, 3 large aliens were standing around several cages. The aliens had gray skin and too many teeth. They wore armor marked with symbols Deho recognized, the Drek Syndicate. His stomach dropped. The Syndicate was bad news. They dealt in weapons, drugs, and worse things. Things he did not want to think about. But it was not the Syndicate members that caught his attention. It was what was in the cages. There were 5 cages total. 4 of them held various alien creatures that looked half dead from starvation and mistreatment. But the 5th cage held something different. Someone different. She was small, maybe the size of a human teenager. Her skin was silver and seemed to shimmer even in the dim light. Delicate crystalline patterns ran along her arms and face, but they were dull, like lights that had been turned down too low. She was curled up in the corner of her cage, her large eyes closed. She looked exhausted. As Deho watched, one of the Syndicate members kicked her cage. The girl flinched but did not open her eyes. The alien said something in his harsh language and laughed. His companions laughed too. Deho felt anger rise in his chest. He clenched his fists. The desperate feeling in his head was coming from her. He was sure of it now. She was calling for help, and everyone on this station could probably hear it. They just did not care. He watched for another minute as the Syndicate members checked their data pads and discussed something. Then they left through another door, leaving the cages unguarded. Deho waited until he was sure they were gone, then slipped inside the storage bay. He approached the girl's cage carefully. Up close, he could see that she was breathing, but barely. Her lips were cracked and her skin looked paper-thin. How long had she been here? How long since anyone had given her food or water? As if sensing his presence, the girl's eyes opened. They were completely silver with no pupils that Deho could see. She looked at him, and for a moment neither of them moved. Then something happened. A feeling bloomed in Deho's mind, warm and surprised. It was not words, but he understood the meaning anyway. She had not expected anyone to actually come. She had been calling for help for so long that she had almost given up hope. Daeho knelt down beside the cage. "I hear you," he said quietly, even though he was not sure if she understood human languages. Her silver eyes filled with tears. The emotion that flooded through Daeho's mind was so intense it almost knocked him over. Relief, gratitude, and a desperate pleading all mixed together. She needed help. She needed someone to get her out of here. Daeho examined the cage. It was an energy barrier, the expensive kind. He could not just break it open. He would need codes or a lot of money to purchase her. Neither of which he had. He looked back at the girl. "I'm going to help you," he said. "I don't know how yet, but I'm going to get you out of here. I promise." She reached one delicate hand toward the energy barrier, as close to him as she could get. Daeho placed his hand on his side of the barrier. He could feel a slight tingle of electricity. The syndicate members' voices echoed from the other room. They were coming back. Daeho stood quickly. "I'll come back," he whispered. "Don't give up." He slipped out of the storage bay and back into the corridor. His heart was pounding. His mind was racing. He had just promised to help someone he did not even know, someone trapped by one of the most dangerous criminal organizations in the galaxy. As he walked back toward the main station, Daeho passed dozens of other beings, tall ones, short ones, scaled ones, furred ones, all of them going about their day. Had they heard her cries too? Had they all just decided it was not their problem? Daeho thought about walking away, about getting back on his ship, finishing his fuel stop, and leaving this station behind. It would be the smart thing to do. The safe thing to do. But when he closed his eyes, he saw her face. Those silver eyes filled with tears and desperate hope. He saw her reaching toward him through the energy barrier. Someone had to help her, and apparently that someone was going to be him, even if it was the stupidest decision he had ever made. Daeho sat in a dingy cafe on the lower level of Viridian 7, staring at his cold coffee. His mind kept going back to the girl in the cage. He had left her there 3 hours ago, and the guilt was eating him alive. But what could he do? He was just one person with barely enough credits to keep his ship running. He needed information, and there was only one person on this station who might help him. Daeho finished his terrible coffee and made his way to the information district. Every station had one, a place where people bought and sold secrets. The shop he was looking for was called the Whisper Network. It was run by Hyunwoo, an old acquaintance from his military days. The shop was small and cluttered with data screens and communication equipment. Hyunwoo sat behind the counter, his fingers dancing across 3 keyboards at once. He was thin with tired eyes and the kind of face that had seen too much. When Daeho walked in, Hyunwoo looked up and sighed. "I knew you would come," Hyunwoo said. "You have that look on your face, that stupid heroic look that's going to get you killed." Daeho sat down across from him. "I need information about the Drek Syndicate, specifically about a prisoner they're holding in Storage Bay 47. Hyunwoo stopped typing. He stared at Daeho like he had just announced plans to jump out of an airlock. "You're joking. Please tell me you're joking." "I'm not joking." Hyunwoo rubbed his face with both hands. "Daeho, listen to me very carefully. The Drek Syndicate controls half the black market in this sector. They have connections to governments, military forces, and criminal organizations across 3 systems. If you interfere with their business, they will hunt you to the ends of the galaxy." "I know," Daeho said quietly. "Then why are you even asking about this?" "Because there's a girl in that cage and she's dying. Someone needs to help her." Hyunwoo was silent for a long moment. Then he started typing again, pulling up information on his screens. "What species is she?" "I don't know. Silver skin, crystalline pattern, silver eyes. She's telepathic, I think. I could feel her calling for help." Hyunwoo's eyes widened. He typed faster, pulling up database after database. Finally, he stopped on one entry. His face went pale. "Oh no. Daeho, that's a Velthari." "A what?" "Velthari. They're almost extinct. Maybe a few hundred left in the entire galaxy. They have this ability to sense hyperspace naturally. They can navigate through rifts that would tear normal ships apart. The Syndicate has been hunting them for years. They sell them to research facilities and weapons manufacturers." Daeho felt sick. "What do they do to them?" Hyunwoo shook his head. "You don't want to know, but it involves extracting neural tissue and keeping them alive during the process. It takes months, sometimes years." The room felt too small suddenly. Daeho stood up and paced. "How much would it cost to buy her?" Hyunwoo pulled up more information. According to the black market listings, A Velthari goes for about 200,000 credits. Maybe more if she's young and healthy. 200,000 credits. Deho had maybe 8,000 in his account. His ship was worth another 30,000 if he was lucky. He could never raise that kind of money. There has to be another way, Deho said. There isn't. Hyunwoo leaned back in his chair. Deho, I know what you're thinking. Don't. You can't fight the syndicate. You can't steal from them. All you'll do is get yourself killed and that girl will still end up in a research lab. Deho stopped pacing. He looked at his old friend. Do you ever hear them? Hear who? The prisoners. The ones in cages all over this station. Do you hear them calling for help? Hyunwoo looked uncomfortable. Sometimes. But there's nothing we can do about it. That's just how the galaxy works. That's just how the galaxy works, Deho repeated. You know how many times I've heard that phrase? From humans, from aliens, from everyone. That's just how things are. You can't change it. Don't get involved. Everyone has an excuse for walking past cages and pretending they don't hear the screaming. Deho. I walked past her the first time, Deho continued. I heard her calling and I almost kept walking. Just like everyone else on this station, just like the hundreds of beings who pass by her cage every day. They all hear her. They all know she's there. And they all decide it's not their problem. Hyunwoo looked down at his keyboards. What do you want me to say? That you're right? Fine, you're right. The galaxy is cruel and unfair, but getting yourself killed won't change that. Maybe not, but at least I'll be able to look at myself in the mirror. Deho left the shop before Hyunwoo could argue anymore. He walked back to the docking bay where his ship was waiting. It was a small vessel, nothing fancy. He had bought it 5 years ago with his military discharge pay. It had carried him to dozens of systems, kept him fed and alive. Inside the ship, Deho sat in the captain's chair and pulled up his financial records. 8,000 credits, a ship worth maybe 30,000. Some cargo in the hold worth another 5,000. Nowhere near enough, but his ship had a quantum drive. That was worth something. It was the most expensive component, the thing that let ships jump between star systems. Without it, he would be trapped in whatever system he was in. He would have to travel at sublight speed, which would take years instead of days. Selling his quantum drive would give him maybe 60,000 credits. Still not enough, but it was something. He looked at his cargo manifest. Medical supplies, food containers, basic equipment. He could sell all of it. That would give him another 20,000. Still not enough. Deho sat there for 2 hours, going through every option he could think of. He could take a loan, but no one would loan him that kind of money. He could try to steal her, but the syndicate's security was too good. He could call for help, but who would come? His sister Ji-won was in the coalition military, but she had her own career to worry about. As he sat there, he felt it again. That desperate cry for help in the back of his mind. The girl was still calling out, still hoping someone would answer. Her telepathic voice was weaker now, like she was running out of strength. How long before she gave up completely? How long before she stopped believing anyone would come? Deho made his decision. He spent the next 6 hours selling everything he could. The quantum drive went to a Krellian merchant for 55,000 credits. His cargo went to a Vexor trader for 18,000. He sold his spare parts, his emergency supplies, even his personal belongings. By the time he was done, he had 93,000 credits. It still was not enough. But he had one more thing he could sell. The ship itself. A Talaxian buyer offered him 35,000 for the vessel. With the quantum drive already gone, it was worth less than it would have been, but it was enough. Barely. Deho looked at his ship one last time. This vessel had been his home for 5 years. His freedom. His livelihood. Without it, he would be stranded on this station with no way to leave. He thought about the girl in the cage, about her silver eyes filled with tears, about the way she had reached toward him through the energy barrier. Someone had to help her, and that someone was him. Deho accepted the Talaxian's offer. 128,000 credits total. Still not enough to buy her outright, but maybe enough to negotiate with, maybe enough to make a difference. He left his ship for the last time and headed toward Storage Bay 47. He did not have a plan. He did not know if the syndicate would even talk to him. All he knew was that he had to try, because if he did not, no one else would. Deho approached Storage Bay 47 with 128,000 credits on a data chip in his pocket. His heart was pounding, but his face was calm. He had learned in the military to never show fear even when you were terrified. 2 syndicate guards stood outside the door. They were both Dreks, large gray-skinned aliens with too many teeth and small mean eyes. One of them held up a hand as Deho approached. "This area is restricted," the guard growled in broken human language. "I'm here to make a purchase," Deho said, keeping his voice steady. "I understand you have merchandise for sale." The guards looked at each other. One of them spoke into a communication device. A moment later, the door opened and they gestured for Deho to enter. Inside, the storage bay looked the same as before. The 5 cages were still there, their prisoners looking even more miserable than they had hours ago. The Velthari girl was curled in the same corner, her crystalline patterns barely glowing at all. A third Drex entered through the back door. This one was older, with scars across his face and arms. He looked at Deho with suspicion. "A human wants to buy? That's unusual. Humans don't usually come to places like this." "I'm interested in the Velthari," Deho said, pointing to the girl's cage. The Drex's small eyes narrowed. "Why? What does a human cargo hauler want with a Velthari?" Deho had prepared an answer for this. "I have a client who collects rare species. He's willing to pay well for unique specimens." It was a lie, but it was the kind of lie that made sense in a place like this. The Drex walked over to the girl's cage and kicked it hard. The girl flinched but did not open her eyes. "This one is already sold. Transport ship comes tomorrow to take her to Helix Station. Research facility there paid 300,000 credits." Deho's stomach sank. 300,000? He did not have that much. Not even close. "I can offer 130,000, Deho said, adding a little to his actual amount to give room for negotiation. The Drex laughed. It was an ugly sound. "No, she's already sold. Come back next month, maybe we have another one." 150,000, Deho said, even though he did not have it. "No." The Drex moved closer to Deho, his posture threatening. "Are you deaf, human? She's not for sale. Now leave before I have my guards throw you out." Deho looked at the girl in the cage. Her eyes were still closed, but he felt her presence in his mind. That desperate, fading hope. She knew he was here. She knew he was trying to help. And she knew he was failing. "Please," Deho said quietly. "She's dying. At least give her some water." The Drex's expression turned cruel. "She'll live long enough to reach Helix Station. That's all that matters. Now get out." Deho left the storage bay with his credits still in his pocket. The guards watched him go, their expressions bored. Just another failed transaction. Nothing unusual, but Deho did not leave the station. Instead, he went back to Hyunwoo's shop. Hyunwoo took one look at his face and sighed. "They wouldn't sell?" "No. She's already been bought by a research facility. They're transporting her tomorrow. Then it's over. There's nothing you can do." Deho sat down heavily. His mind was racing. Tomorrow the girl would be taken to Helix Station. Once she was there, she would disappear into a research lab and no one would ever see her again. He had less than 24 hours. "I need your help," Deho said. "No." Hyunwoo shook his head. "Whatever you're thinking, the answer is no. You know the station's systems. You can hack into their security, disable alarms, create distractions. Deho, you're talking about stealing from the Drex Syndicate. That's suicide. I'm talking about saving a life." Hyunwoo stood up and started pacing. "You want to know why no one helps those prisoners? Because helping them gets you killed. Because the galaxy is too big and cruel and one person can't change it. Because there are millions of beings suffering right now, and you can't save them all." "I'm not trying to save them all," Deho said. "I'm trying to save one." They stared at each other for a long moment. Finally, Hyunwoo cursed and sat back down at his computers. "This is insane. Completely insane. I know. We're both going to die. Probably." Hyunwoo's fingers flew across the keyboards. "The station does a power cycle every night at 200 hours. For about 3 minutes, secondary systems go offline while the main reactor rebalances. During that time, the energy cages will lose power. But the backup generators will kick in after about 90 seconds. 90 seconds, Deho repeated. That's not much time. It's what you've got. The storage bay will still have guards, and the alarm system will come back online after the power cycle. You'll have maybe 5 minutes before every syndicate member on the station knows what you're doing." Deho thought about it. 5 minutes to get into the storage bay, free the girl, and escape. It was not enough time, but it was all he had. "I'll need weapons," Deho said, "and an EMP device to knock out the backup generators." Hyunwoo pulled up a contact list. I know a dealer, but this is going to cost you everything you have. I know. By 100 hours, Deho had spent all his credits. He had a plasma pistol, an EMP device, and a small medical kit. He also had a route mapped out from the storage bay to the docking area, where a small escape pod was waiting. Hyunwoo had purchased the pod with the last of Deho's money. Once you activate the EMP, every alarm on the station will go off, Hyunwoo said. You'll have maybe 3 minutes before station security and syndicate guards converge on your position. The escape pod is in docking bay 12. If you can reach it, the pod has enough fuel to get you to the next system. What about you? Deho asked. I'll wipe my systems and disappear. I've got safe houses. I'll be fine. Deho looked at his old friend. Thank you. Hyunwoo shook his head. Don't thank me. This is the stupidest thing I've ever been part of. Just try not to die. At 0200 hours exactly, the station's lights flickered as the power cycle began. Deho was already moving. He sprinted down the corridor toward storage bay 47. The guards outside the door looked confused as the lights dimmed. Deho did not give them time to react. The plasma pistol fired twice. Both guards went down. Deho did not check if they were dead. He had 90 seconds. He burst into the storage bay and activated the EMP device. The energy cages flickered and died. The backup generators tried to kick in, but the EMP fried their circuits. Deho ran to the Velthari girl's cage and pulled the door open. She looked at him with those silver eyes, confused and frightened. Deho scooped her up in his arms. She weighed almost nothing, like holding a child. Her skin was cold to the touch. Hold on, he said. I've got you. Alarms started blaring throughout the station. Deho ran. Behind him, he could hear shouts and the sound of running feet. The syndicate knew what was happening. He took the route Hyunwoo had mapped out, running through maintenance corridors and service tunnels. The girl clung to his neck, her face pressed against his shoulder. He could feel her heartbeat, fast and irregular. Plasma fire sizzled past his head. Syndicate guards had found them. Deho fired back without looking, just trying to keep them at a distance. His lungs burned. His legs felt like lead, but he kept running. Docking bay 12 was ahead. He could see the escape pod through the window. Just a little further, something hit his shoulder, spinning him around. Pain exploded through his body. He had been shot, but he did not let go of the girl. He stumbled forward, crashing through the docking bay door. The escape pod was there, its hatch open and waiting. Deho practically fell inside, still holding the girl. His fingers fumbled with the control panel, slick with his own blood. The hatch started closing. Outside, syndicate guards were running toward them, weapons raised. The hatch sealed. The pod launched. Through the window, Deho watched Viridian 7 grow smaller. Alarms were still blaring inside the pod, warning about his injuries. But he had done it. Against all odds, he had done it. The girl stirred in his arms. Her silver eyes opened and looked at him. For the first time, Deho heard her voice in his mind. Not a desperate cry for help, but words. Why? She asked.
Why would you do this?
Deho smiled, even though it hurt. Because someone had to. The escape pod drifted through space for 3 hours before Deho regained consciousness. The pain in his shoulder was intense, but the pod's automated medical system had sealed the wound and pumped him full of painkillers. He would live, though his arm felt like it was on fire. The Velthari girl sat in the corner of the small pod, watching him with her silver eyes. In the better light, Deho could see her more clearly. Her crystalline patterns were glowing faintly now, pulsing with a soft blue light. She looked healthier than she had in the cage, but still very weak. You're awake, she said. Her voice was in his mind, clear as spoken words, but somehow gentler. I was worried you would die. Deho sat up slowly, wincing at the pain. I'm tougher than I look. What's your name? Lyra, and you are called Deho. I heard it in your thoughts, and can you read my mind? Only surface thoughts, and only when you let me. I do not invade privacy. Lyra tilted her head. Your species is very loud in your minds. You think and feel everything so strongly. Deho managed a weak smile. Yeah, humans are like that. We're not very good at keeping things to ourselves. He checked the pod's navigation system. They were in deep space between Viridian 7 and the nearest inhabited system. The pod had enough fuel to reach Talus Station, a small trading outpost about 6 hours away. From there, he would need to figure out their next move. They will hunt us, Lyra said quietly. The Syndicate does not forgive stolen property. They will search every station, every planet. They will put bounties on our heads. I know. Deho adjusted their course slightly. How long were you in that cage? 3 cycles. Maybe more. Time became difficult to count. Lyra's crystalline patterns dimmed. Before the cage, I was with my family on our homeworld. The syndicate attacked in the night. They killed my parents. They took me and my younger brother. I do not know where he is now. Deho felt anger rise in his chest. I'm sorry. That should never have happened to you. But it did. It happens to my people all the time. We are rare, you see. Valuable. The galaxy sees us as tools, not as persons. Lyra looked at her hands. When I called for help in that cage, I could feel hundreds of minds passing by. They all heard me, but they all chose to ignore it. Until you, I couldn't ignore it. Why not? The others did. Even other humans passed by without stopping. Deho thought about how to explain it. Humans have a long history of being oppressed, of being enslaved, hunted and treated as less than persons. We remember what that feels like. Some of us, anyway. Some of us decided a long time ago that we would never walk past a cage and pretend we didn't hear the screaming. Lyra was quiet for a moment. You sacrificed everything for me. Your ship, your livelihood, your safety. I felt it in your thoughts. You knew you might die, but you came anyway. Yeah, well, I've been called stupid before. It is not stupidity. Lyra's eyes shone with something that might have been tears, if her species could cry. It is the most beautiful thing I've ever witnessed. In all the galaxy, in all the species I have encountered through telepathy, I have never felt anything like human compassion. You feel so much. You care so much, even when it hurts you. Before Deho could respond, the pod's alarm system started beeping. He checked the sensors and cursed. 3 ships were approaching fast from Viridian 7's direction. Their transponder codes identified them as bounty hunter vessels. They found us already, Deho said. That was fast. The syndicate moves quickly when they are angry. How much time do we have? Maybe 20 minutes before they're in weapons range. This pod isn't armed. We can't fight them. Deho pushed the pod's engines as hard as they would go. They were not built for speed, but he squeezed every bit of thrust he could from them. The bounty hunter ships were gaining, but slowly. If he could just reach Talus Station, maybe they could lose themselves in the crowds. 15 minutes later, Talus Station appeared on their sensors. It was a small facility, nothing like the sprawling complex of Viridian 7, but it had docking bays and a marketplace. It was somewhere to hide. The pod slid into a docking bay just as the bounty hunter ships entered sensor range of the station. Deho grabbed Lyra's hand. It felt strange, cool and smooth like glass, and pulled her out of the pod. They ran through the station's corridors looking for anywhere to hide. Talus Station was dirty and run down, with flickering lights and rusted walls. But it had one advantage: it was a free station, not controlled by any government or organization. That meant the bounty hunters would have to be careful about starting trouble here. The station's security forces did not like violence in their territory. Deho found a small shop that sold used equipment and spare parts. The owner was a Vexer, a small lizard-like alien with quick eyes. Deho traded his plasma pistol for some food, water, and a change of clothes for both of them. The Vexer asked no questions, which Deho appreciated. They hid in a storage room for several hours while the bounty hunters searched the station. Deho could hear them asking questions, describing him and Lyra to the merchants and residents. Some people probably told them what they wanted to know, but others, the ones who did not like authority, probably lied or said nothing. During the long wait, Lyra told Deho about her people. The Velthari had once been numerous, living on 7 different worlds. But when other species discovered their ability to sense hyperspace, everything changed. Governments wanted to use them for navigation. Corporations wanted to study them. The military wanted to turn them into living weapons. We can feel the spaces between reality, Lyra explained, the places where normal physics breaks down. Other species see these as dangerous anomalies. We see them as pathways. We can guide ships through rifts that would destroy any vessel that tried to cross them normally. So the syndicate hunts your people to sell you to research labs? Yes, they extract our neural tissue while we are still alive. They try to create artificial navigators, machines that can do what we do naturally. It never works, but they keep trying. And my people keep dying. Deho felt sick. He had known the syndicate was evil, but hearing the details made it worse. How many of your people are left? I do not know. Maybe 300, maybe less. We hide now, scattered across the galaxy. We do not gather in groups anymore because that makes us easier to find. What about your brother? The one the syndicate took with you? Lyra's crystalline patterns dimmed again. I cannot feel his mind anymore. Either he is very far away or... She did not finish the sentence. After 6 hours of hiding, the bounty hunters finally left the station. Daeho and Lyra emerged from the storage room. Daeho's shoulder was throbbing despite the painkillers, and he was exhausted. But they could not stay here. The bounty hunters would be back. At the station's marketplace, Daeho found a human merchant selling communication equipment. The merchant's name was Tae-sung, an older man with gray hair and kind eyes. When Daeho approached, Tae-sung took one look at him and Lyra and understood something was wrong. You're in trouble, Tae-sung said quietly in Korean. Bad trouble from the look of it, Daeho answered in the same language, grateful to speak his native tongue. The Drek Syndicate, I did something stupid. Tae-sung glanced at Lyra. You freed her? Yes. The old merchant was quiet for a moment. Then he smiled. Good. The Syndicate are animals. Someone needed to stand up to them. He pulled out a data pad and wrote something on it. This is an address, a human colony on the edge of explored space. It's called New Busan. Tell them Tae-sung sent you. They'll help. Why would you help us? Because I'm human. And humans don't abandon their own. Even the stupid ones who rescue alien girls from criminal syndicates. Tae-sung pressed the data pad into Daeho's hand. Now go, before those bounty hunters come back. Daeho and Lyra left Talis Station on a transport ship hiding among cargo containers. The journey to New Busan would take 2 weeks. 2 weeks of running, hiding, and hoping the syndicate did not find them first. As the transport jumped to hyperspace, Lyra squeezed Daeho's hand. You could have left me at any station. You could have run and saved yourself. Why do you keep risking your life for me? Daeho thought about all the beings who had walked past her cage, all the people who had heard her cries and chosen to do nothing. He thought about what it meant to be human, to feel too much, to care too much, to do stupid, dangerous things because it was the right thing to do. Because that's what humans do, he said simply. We're too stubborn to give up, too stupid to know when to quit, and too compassionate to walk away from someone who needs help. Lyra leaned her head against his shoulder. Her crystalline patterns glowed softly in the dim cargo hold. Then I am grateful, she said quietly, that only one human answered my call. Because one was all I needed. New Busan was not what Daeho expected. The colony sat on a small moon orbiting a gas giant in an unnamed system. It had no official designation on any map. The buildings were simple structures made from prefabricated materials and local stone. About 300 humans lived there, farming, mining, and doing their best to stay off the galaxy's radar. The transport ship dropped them at the colony's single landing pad. As Daeho and Lyra stepped off the ship, they were met by an older man with a weathered face and sharp eyes. This was Governor Tae-yang, the colony's elected leader. Tae-sung sent you, Tae-yang said. It was not a question. Come, we need to talk somewhere private. He led them to a small building that served as the colony's administration center. Inside, several other colonists were waiting. Farmers, engineers, former soldiers. They all looked at Lyra with curiosity but not fear. That was already different from most places they had been. Tell me everything, Tae-yang said, sitting down at a worn table. Daeho explained what had happened. The cage on Viridian 7, the rescue. The bounty hunters. The long flight here. As he spoke, he watched the colonists' faces. They showed anger when he described the syndicate's treatment of Lyra. They showed respect when he talked about the rescue. But they also showed worry. When Daeho finished, Tae-yang was quiet for a long moment. Finally, he spoke. The syndicate will find this place eventually. When they do, they'll demand we hand you over. If we refuse, they'll attack. I understand, Daeho said. We can leave. I don't want to bring trouble to your people. Leave? A younger woman named Sujin spoke up. She had sharp features and the look of someone who had seen combat. You think we're going to turn away a person who needs help because we're afraid of the syndicate? Sujin is right, Tae-yang said. We didn't come all the way out here to build a colony just to behave like the rest of the galaxy. You're human, Daeho. That makes you one of us. And Lyra? He looked at the Velthari girl. You're under our protection now. Both of you. Daeho felt something tight in his chest loosen. Thank you, Don't thank me yet. We need to understand what we're dealing with. Taeyang turned to Lyra. Tell us about your people. Why is the Syndicate so desperate to capture you? Lyra hesitated. Daeho could feel her uncertainty through their telepathic connection. She was afraid to reveal her people's secrets, but she was also tired of running and hiding. I will tell you, she said finally, but what I share must not leave this room. It is knowledge that has gotten many of my people killed. The colonists agreed. Lyra took a deep breath and began. My people can sense hyperspace. You know this already. But there is more. We can feel something happening in the fabric of reality. A great tearing. A catastrophe that will affect the entire galaxy. Taeyang leaned forward. What kind of catastrophe? The hyperspace lanes that ships use to travel between stars. They are not stable. They are like rivers that flow through reality. But the rivers are changing. Growing violent. In perhaps 20 of your years, maybe 30, the major hyperspace lanes will collapse. Travel between stars will become impossible. The galaxy will fragment into isolated systems. The room fell silent. Daeho stared at Lyra. You're saying the entire galactic civilization is going to collapse? Yes. My people have been trying to warn others for decades, but no one listens. Governments think we are lying to make ourselves more valuable. Corporations think we are exaggerating to drive up our price. The few who do believe us are trying to capture my people, to force us to help them create escape routes or safe havens. Sujin spoke up. If this is true, why hasn't anyone else discovered it? Because other species cannot sense hyperspace naturally. Your instruments can detect anomalies, but they cannot predict the pattern. It is like trying to understand music by measuring sound waves. You can see the data, but you cannot feel the meaning. Taeyang rubbed his face. So the Syndicate knows about this? Not just the Syndicate. The coalition government knows. Several major corporations know. They are all racing to capture as many Velthari as they can. They want to extract our neural tissue and create artificial navigators before the collapse happens. They think they can preserve their power and control by being the only ones who can travel safely. And they're willing to drive your species to extinction to do it. Daeho said, feeling sick. Yes. That is why there are so few of us left. That is why we hide. Lyra's crystalline patterns pulsed with a sad light. The galaxy is cruel. It sees my people as resources, not as persons. We are tools to be used and discarded. The room was quiet for a long time. Finally, an older colonist named Hyun spoke up. What can be done? Is there a way to prevent this collapse? Perhaps. My people believe that if we work together with other species, we could stabilize the hyperspace lanes. We could prevent the catastrophe. But it would require cooperation, resources, and time. It would require the galaxy to see us as partners instead of property. That's not going to happen, Sujin said bitterly. The Syndicate, the Coalition, the corporations, they're all too busy fighting over power to work together. I know, Lyra said softly. That is why I had given up hope. Until Daeho found me. Everyone looked at Daeho. He shifted uncomfortably. I just did what anyone should have done, but no one else did, Taeyang said. That's the point. The galaxy is full of beings who hear cries for help and choose to walk away. You didn't. That makes you different. Sujin stood up. We need to call a colony meeting. Everyone needs to hear this. They need to decide if we're going to protect these two or not. They'll say yes, Hyun said confidently. We're human. We don't abandon people who need help. 2 hours later, the entire colony gathered in the central square. 300 humans, from children to elders, stood in the fading light of the gas giant overhead. Taeyang stood on a platform and explained the situation. He told them about Daeho's rescue of Lyra, about the Syndicate's pursuit, about the bounty on their heads, about the danger that protecting them would bring. Then he told them about the coming catastrophe, about the collapse of the hyperspace lanes, about the galaxy's willingness to drive the Velthari to extinction. When he finished, he asked the colonists to vote. Should they protect Daeho and Lyra, even knowing it might mean war with the Syndicate, or should they turn them away to protect themselves? The vote was unanimous. Every single person voted to protect them. Daeho stood there stunned. These people had never met him before. They owed him nothing, but they were willing to risk everything to protect him and Lyra. An old woman approached him after the vote. Her name was Ji-hai, and she had lived through the early colonial wars. Do you know why we voted this way? She asked. No, Daeho admitted. Because we remember. Every human in this colony is descended from people who were oppressed, enslaved, or persecuted. We remember what it was like to be helpless, to cry out for help and have no one answer. We built this colony to be different, to be the kind of place where cries for help are always answered. She patted his arm gently. You did the right thing, young man. You reminded us what it means to be human. We won't let the Syndicate take that away from us. That night, Daeho and Lyra stood outside the colony's perimeter, looking up at the stars. Somewhere out there, the Syndicate was hunting for them. Somewhere out there, bounty hunters were searching. The galaxy was still cruel and uncaring. But here, in this small colony on the edge of nowhere, 300 humans had decided that one life mattered. That one alien girl was worth protecting. That doing the right thing was more important than being safe. I do not understand your species, Lyra said quietly. You are so young, so new to the galaxy. You have so little power compared to the great empires. Yet you are the only ones who seem to care about justice, about mercy, about doing what is right even when it costs you everything. Daeho thought about it. Maybe that's because we're young. We haven't learned to be cynical yet. We haven't learned to accept that that's just how things are. We still believe we can change things. Maybe that makes us stupid, or maybe it makes us the only sane species in a galaxy that's gone crazy. Lyra took his hand. Her crystalline patterns glowed softly in the darkness. I think, she said, it makes you the most dangerous species in the galaxy, because you refuse to accept the way things are. You insist on changing them. Is that a bad thing? No, Lyra said, and for the first time since he had met her, she smiled. I think it is the most wonderful thing I have ever seen. In the distance, Daeho could see the lights of the colony. 300 humans going about their evening routines, cooking dinner, telling stories, taking care of each other, living their lives with the knowledge that tomorrow might bring war, but today they had done the right thing, and somehow, that was enough. 3 weeks passed peacefully in New Busan. Daeho's shoulder healed and Lyra grew stronger every day. Her crystalline patterns glowed brightly now, pulsing with healthy light. The colonists treated her like family, bringing her food, teaching her about human culture, and asking her endless questions about her people. But the peace could not last forever. The warning came at dawn. The colony's sensor array detected 6 ships dropping out of hyperspace at the edge of the system. They were Syndicate vessels, accompanied by hired mercenaries from 3 different species. The fleet was massive, more than enough firepower to destroy the colony 10 times over. Taiyang called an emergency meeting in the central square. Every colonist attended, their faces grim but determined. Daeho stood beside Lyra, feeling guilty that his actions had brought this danger to these people. The Syndicate is here, Taiyang announced. They're demanding we hand over Daeho and Lyra. If we refuse, they'll attack. I'm calling for another vote. Should we fight or surrender them? Fight, Sujin said immediately. Fight, echoed Hyun. One by one, every colonist voted to fight. Again, the vote was unanimous. Daeho stepped forward. You don't have to do this. Lyra and I can surrender. There's no reason for you all to die for us. There's every reason, Jihi said. Her old voice was steady and strong. We didn't come to the edge of the galaxy to build another place where the strong oppress the weak. We came here to be better. If we surrender you now, we might as well have stayed in the core systems. The colonists began preparing for battle. They had weapons, old military rifles, mining explosives, a few plasma cannons left over from the colonial wars. It was not much compared to the Syndicate's firepower, but it was something. Daeho helped set up defensive positions around the colony's perimeter. As he worked, his communication device buzzed. It was a message from an unknown source. He opened it cautiously. Little brother, I saw your name on the Syndicate's bounty list. I'm coming. It was from Jiwon, his sister. Daeho's heart leapt. Jiwon was a coalition military officer, commanding a patrol vessel. If she was coming, maybe they had a chance. 6 hours later, a coalition patrol ship dropped out of hyperspace. But it was not alone. Jiwon had brought 2 more patrol vessels with her, small ships but armed and shielded. The 3 coalition ships positioned themselves between the Syndicate fleet and the colony. Jiwon's face appeared on the colony's main screen. She looked older than Daeho remembered, with new scars on her face and gray in her hair. But her eyes were the same, fierce and determined. Syndicate vessels, this is Commander G1 of the Coalition Defense Force. You are in violation of interstellar law. This colony is under Coalition protection. Leave immediately or face military action. It was a bluff. 3 small patrol ships could not defeat the Syndicate fleet. But G1 was betting that the Syndicate would not want to start a war with the Coalition over 2 fugitives. She was wrong. The Syndicate commander's reply came quickly. The fugitives are our property. We will retrieve them by force if necessary. Coalition interference will be noted and punished. Then punish us, G1 said coldly. Fire when ready. The Syndicate fleet opened fire. Space lit up with plasma bolts and missile trails. G1's ships returned fire, their smaller weapons focusing on the mercenary vessels. 2 mercenary ships broke off, damaged but not destroyed. The Syndicate's main ships continued their approach toward the colony. On the ground, Daeho and the colonists watched the battle unfold above them. The Coalition ships were fighting bravely, but they were outmatched. One of the patrol vessels took a direct hit to its engines and began drifting, dead in space. They're going to break through, Sujin said, checking her rifle. Get ready. But then something unexpected happened. Lyra stepped forward, her crystalline patterns glowing brighter than Daeho had ever seen. She closed her eyes and spread her hands. What are you doing? Daeho asked. My people can navigate hyperspace rifts, Lyra said, her voice strained. But we can also create them. The space around the Syndicate fleet began to shimmer. Reality itself seemed to bend and twist. Suddenly 3 hyperspace rifts opened. Impossible. Chaotic tiers in space that no ship should ever approach. The Syndicate ships tried to avoid the rifts, but Lyra was controlling them, moving them like weapons. One mercenary ship got too close and was pulled into a rift. It vanished, torn apart by forces no technology could withstand. The Syndicate commander's voice came over the communication channel, panicked now. Cease fire! Cease fire! Retreat! But Lyra was not done. She opened more rifts surrounding the Syndicate fleet. The ships scattered, trying to escape. 2 more vessels were caught in the rifts and destroyed. The rest fled back toward the edge of the system. When it was over, Lyra collapsed. Daeho caught her before she hit the ground. Her crystalline patterns were flickering weakly and she was breathing hard. That was incredible, Daeho said. But you shouldn't have risked yourself like that. I'm tired of running, Lyra whispered. I am tired of hiding while my people are hunted. If I must fight, then I will fight. G1's ship landed at the colony an hour later. Daeho's sister stepped out looking exhausted but alive. She walked straight to Daeho and punched him in the arm. That's for making me come all the way out here, she said. Then she hugged him tightly. And that's for being an idiot who saves people even when it's suicidal. I'm proud of you, little brother. How did you know where to find me? Yunwoo sent me a message. He said you were about to do something stupid, and you might need backup. He was right. Ji-won looked at Lyra, who was recovering slowly with the help of the colony's medics. So this is the girl you threw away your life for? Yes, this is Lyra. Ji-won studied Lyra for a moment. Then she nodded. Good. She looks worth it. The Syndicate fleet regrouped at the edge of the system, but they did not attack again. They had learned that this small human colony was more dangerous than they expected. The bounty hunters and mercenaries began leaving, deciding that no amount of money was worth facing hyperspace rifts. But the Syndicate's main ship remained. Its commander sent one final message. This is not over. We will return with more ships. We will bring an army, and we will take what belongs to us. Taeyang responded simply. Come back if you want. We'll be waiting. The Syndicate ship jumped to hyperspace and disappeared. That night, the colony held a celebration. They had survived. They had fought one of the galaxy's most dangerous criminal organizations and won. Music played, food was shared, and people danced under the light of the gas giant. Daeho sat with Lyra on the edge of the celebration, watching the colonists enjoy their victory. Ji-won joined them carrying 3 cups of something that smelled alcoholic. To stupid decisions and impossible victories, Ji-won said, raising her cup. They drank together. The liquid burned going down, but it felt good. What happens now? Daeho asked. The Syndicate will come back. Maybe not tomorrow, but eventually. Let them, Ji-won said. I'm filing a report with Coalition Command. About the Velthari. About the Syndicate's crimes. About the coming hyperspace collapse. Maybe the brass will ignore it. Probably they will. But at least it will be on record. And I will spread the word to my people, Lyra said. I will tell them about New Busan. About the humans who fought for a stranger. Maybe others will come here. Maybe we can build something new. Sujin approached them, her rifle still slung over her shoulder. The syndicate's commander was right about one thing. This isn't over. They'll come back with more ships. And next time we might not be so lucky. Then we'll fight again, Taiyang said, joining the group. And we'll keep fighting. Because that's what humans do. We don't give up just because things are hard. Ji-hai, the old woman, laughed. You know what the other species say about humans? They say we're too emotional, too irrational, too willing to throw away our lives for stupid reasons. They're not wrong, Daeho said. No, they're not. But that's exactly what makes us dangerous. We don't calculate odds. We don't measure profit and loss. We just do what we think is right and deal with the consequences later. Ji-hai smiled. The galaxy thinks that makes us weak. They're about to learn how wrong they are. Lyra looked around at the colonists, 300 humans who had voted unanimously to protect her. 300 people who had faced impossible odds without hesitation. 300 individuals who valued one life more than their own safety. My people have traveled the galaxy for thousands of years, she said softly. We have met hundreds of species. Some were wise, some were powerful, some were ancient beyond measure. But humans, she paused, her crystalline patterns glowing with warm light. Humans are the first species we have met who are truly brave. Not brave because you are strong, but brave because you choose to be, even when you are afraid. Even when you should run, you stand and fight for what you believe is right. Is that good or bad? Sujin asked. I do not know yet, Lyra admitted. But I think the galaxy is about to find out. Above them, the stars shone cold and distant. Somewhere out there, the syndicate was planning its revenge. Somewhere out there, governments and corporations were continuing their hunt for the Veltari. The galaxy remained cruel and uncaring. But here, on this small moon on the edge of nowhere, something had changed. 300 humans had drawn a line and said, no further. One human had answered a cry for help when no one else would. And 6 months had passed since the battle at New Busan. The galaxy had changed in ways no one expected. Ji-won's report about the syndicate and the Velthari made its way through coalition channels. At first, the military brass tried to bury it. But Ji-won had sent copies to news organizations, independent journalists, and civilian watchdog groups. The story spread like fire. Within weeks, images of Lyra in her cage appeared on news feeds across 100 worlds. The recording of Daeho's rescue, captured by station security cameras, went viral. Beings across the galaxy watched a lone human risk everything to save one alien girl. They watched 300 colonists vote unanimously to protect her. They watched humans fight impossible odds because it was the right thing to do. The reaction was not what anyone expected. In the core systems, protests erupted. Citizens demanded their governments explain why they had allowed the Velthari genocide, why they had ignored the coming hyperspace collapse, why they had looked the other way while the syndicate hunted sentient beings. Other species began asking uncomfortable questions. Why had only humans answered the call for help? Why had thousands of beings walked past that cage without stopping? What did it say about galactic civilization that one species, barely a century into space travel, seemed to be the only one with a functioning moral compass? The coalition government tried to defend itself. They claimed they had not known the full extent of the syndicate's crimes. They promised investigations and reforms, but public opinion had turned against them. Humans across the galaxy demanded action, and human voters were too numerous to ignore. Within 3 months, the coalition passed the Sentient Rights Protection Act. It made trafficking in sentient beings a capital crime. It granted asylum rights to endangered species. It established the Office of Species Protection, tasked with preventing genocide and exploitation. It was not enough to undo the damage. But it was a start. The Drek Syndicate faced coordinated raids across multiple systems. Coalition forces, backed by human volunteers and sympathetic aliens, struck at their operations. Many syndicate members were arrested. Others fled to the Outer Rim. The organization did not disappear, but its power was broken. In the raids, coalition forces freed 47 Velthari, who had been held in various facilities. Among them was a young boy with silver skin and frightened eyes, Lyra's brother. The reunion happened on New Busan, which had become a sanctuary for rescued Velthari. When Lyra saw her brother for the first time in almost a year, she ran to him and held him like she would never let go. Daeho watched from a distance, feeling something warm and painful in his chest. Ji-won stood beside him. "You did that," she said quietly. "You saved him. You saved all of them." "I just saved one girl," Dae-ho said. "Everything else, that was other people's choices. That's how change happens. One person does something impossible. Others see it and think, maybe I can do something too. Then more people act. Then more. Until suddenly the whole galaxy is different." Dae-ho thought about that. 6 months ago, he had been a cargo hauler trying to keep his ship running. Now he was somehow at the center of a galactic movement. He still was not sure how it had happened. New Busan had grown. The original 300 colonists were now joined by 200 more humans and 60 Velthari. The colony was building new structures, expanding its farms and establishing itself as a symbol of cooperation between species. Lyra approached Dae-ho that evening. Her brother was with her, holding her hand shyly. The boy looked healthier than when he had first arrived, his crystalline patterns glowing with steady light. "Dae-ho, this is my brother Kai," Lyra said. "Kai, this is the human I told you about. The one who saved me." Kai looked up at Dae-ho with wide silver eyes. Then hesitantly he reached out and touched Dae-ho's hand. A feeling of gratitude and wonder flooded through Dae-ho's mind. The boy's telepathic voice was young and uncertain, but the emotion was clear. "Thank you for saving my sister. Thank you for showing us that not everyone in the galaxy is cruel." Dae-ho knelt down to the boy's level. "You don't have to thank me. I just did what anyone should do." "But no one else did," Kai said. "Only you." Later that night, Dae-ho stood in the small apartment he now called home. It was not much. One room with a bed, a desk, and a window overlooking the colony. He had lost his ship, his livelihood, and his old life. But somehow he did not miss any of it. His communication device buzzed. It was Hyunwoo, his old friend from Viridian 7. Hyunwoo's face appeared on the screen, looking tired but alive. "I heard you're famous now," Hyunwoo said. "The human who started a revolution by being too stupid to walk away from a cage." Dae-ho smiled. "How are you? Did the syndicate come after you?" "They tried. I disappeared before they could find me. Spent the last 6 months hiding in various stations." Hyunwoo paused. "But I'm done hiding. I'm done selling information to criminals and pretending that's just how the galaxy works. I want to help. Help with what? With whatever you're doing? This rescue network thing. I hear you're planning to free more prisoners. I can provide intelligence, hack security systems, coordinate operations. I'm good at that." Dae-ho had not planned to start a rescue network, but over the past months, other humans had contacted him. They had heard about his rescue of Lyra. They wanted to help other prisoners, other exploited species. Without meaning to, Dae-ho had become the face of something larger than himself. "We need all the help we can get," Dae-ho said. "Welcome to the team." More messages came in over the following weeks. Human volunteers from across the galaxy, sympathetic aliens who wanted to support the cause, even some coalition military officers, including Ji-won, who began quietly passing along intelligence about trafficking operations. The rescue network grew. They freed slaves from mining operations. They liberated research subjects from illegal laboratories. They broke up trafficking rings and exposed corrupt officials. It was dangerous work, and not every mission succeeded. But they kept trying. 1 year after the rescue at Viridian 7, Dae-ho received a message that changed everything. It was from a Krellian scientist named Veltar, one of the few aliens who had publicly supported the Velthari. "I've been studying the hyperspace collapse your Velthari friend warned about." She was right. "We have maybe 20 years before the major lanes become unusable, but I think I've found a solution. It requires cooperation between Velthari navigators and conventional technology. If we work together, we might be able to stabilize the lanes." Dae-ho forwarded the message to Lyra. She read it, her crystalline patterns pulsing with excitement. "This is what my people have been trying to tell the galaxy for decades," she said. "That cooperation is the answer. That working together we can prevent the catastrophe. Will the Velthari help? If humans are involved, yes. My people trust you now. You proved that at least some beings in this galaxy value life more than profit." The project began. Velthari navigators worked with human engineers and alien scientists. The coalition government, pressured by public opinion, provided funding. Corporations contributed resources, realizing that preventing the collapse was more profitable than trying to control the aftermath. It was not easy. Different species had different ways of thinking. Different priorities, different methods. Arguments erupted. Projects failed. Progress was slow and frustrating, but they kept working together. Because the alternative was collapse and isolation. 2 years after the rescue, Daeho stood in the main square of New Busan during a ceremony. The colony had become a hub for interspecies cooperation. Humans, Velthari, and other species lived and worked together here, building something new. Governor Tae-yang spoke to the assembled crowd. 2 years ago, one human made a choice. He heard a cry for help, and instead of walking away like everyone else, he answered. That choice changed everything. It reminded us what it means to be civilized, what it means to care about others even when it costs us everything. He gestured to Daeho. This human is not special. He's not more intelligent or stronger or braver than anyone else. He's just someone who refused to accept that that's just how things are. And because he refused, the galaxy is different now. The crowd applauded. Daeho felt embarrassed. He had never wanted to be a symbol or a hero. He had just wanted to help one person. But Lyra took his hand and squeezed it. Her crystalline patterns glowed with warm light. You changed my life, she said telepathically. You changed my people's future. You changed the galaxy, whether you wanted to or not. That evening, Daeho walked along the colony's perimeter with Lyra. The gas giant hung in the sky above them, its storms swirling in shades of orange and red. They talked about small things. The colony's new hydroponics bay, Kai's progress learning human languages, Hyunwoo's latest intelligence reports. As they walked, Daeho's communication device buzzed. It was a distress signal, routed through the rescue network. Somewhere on a station 3 systems away, someone was calling for help. Someone was trapped, afraid, and desperate. Daeho stopped walking. He looked at the message, then at Lyra. Another rescue, she said. It was not a question. Yeah, sounds like a Talaxian family being held by traffickers. They're asking if anyone can help. What will you tell them?